Okay, we're now live with the August 7th meeting of the Node.js Technical Steering Committee. We've got 8 of us on the call, and not the largest agenda we've ever had, not the smallest agenda. This is, the agenda that's just right. So we'll start with announcements. Does anyone have any announcements they'd like to make?
2 releases yesterday. Woohoo.
Thank you to, I guess this was Ruben and Beth who did the releases.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone on the call who can help with notes?
I'm taking notes right now. I'll take the notes.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. So the first issue that we have on the agenda is from the Node.js repo. It's issue number 25461, and that's process improved next tick performance. This is Brian White, I think, seemed to have opened this.
Can I just jump in on this one real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So we can probably skip this one. Anatoly started, posted a comment, and there's now a conversation back and forth. Like as of like an hour or two ago, conversation is moving again, and that's the main thing we want to make sure is happening. There's no decision to be made right now. They're discussing Anatoly's concerns, and we should leave it on the agenda for next week, but we don't need to talk about it this week, I don't think.
Okay. Please let me know if I'm not typing loud enough. I know that my keyboard's not as loud as Michael's, so.
Ouch.
I love keyboard so much. So the next one we have on here is Node.js issue 19214, building with full ICU by default. Does someone in particular want to take this one on to discuss?
I'm not sure if the situation on this one is changed, recently. The concern has always been the doubling the binary size.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if that's not an issue anymore, then I think enabling it by default is good. But if that's still a concern, then I don't think we've made enough progress to really make a decision one way or the other.
Jeremiah has their hand up. Then I have something to add. Jeremiah.
Yeah. Well, I think it. Okay. So obviously, doing this would require, I think, more stuff because it would produce more builds. I'm sure this has probably been talked about in the past, but maybe it's possible to produce full ICU build as well. But I'm really not sure the default builds should be that, just because it really does add a lot of sort of like weight in that respect to Node.js. Makes it a lot bigger binary. I'm not really sure if that has like memory implications on low memory machines. But yeah.
So there's a comment from 11 days ago that has a little bit more specific numbers here. So it add about 11 megabytes to the Git checkout, but the Git checkup's already around like half a gig, so it's not a huge increase. It doesn't seem like it would really affect compile time too much, and the binary would be 5.5 megabytes, which is about 30% larger. Personally, I would love to see us slim down the binary if possible, like especially with how many people are using Node now in serverless environments. Well, binary size does not necessarily make like a huge difference for cold starts. It's non-negligible. So I'm personally not a huge fan of seeing us make the binary size much larger. I would love to see some evidence of like people specifically requesting this. It seems like those who are interested in internationalization, I'm not saying everyone shouldn't be, but those who are working directly on internationalization want to see the full INTL. But like I personally have not seen like a large number of issues of like individuals who are asking for it. Now, we could always make like a full INTL build as like an extra build target that we create. I see here that there was concerns raised about the bandwidth bill for Node.js.org, but I'm not personally concerned about that one. And that's something that if it was an issue, I could look into having Google help subsidize. is there anything? Michael Dawson added this to the agenda to get some feedback. Maybe the next step that we could do for those who feel strongly about this, would you be able to comment in the issue?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Anyone else have anything else to add for this one?
Real quick, Miles, I'm putting in the minutes that you, especially since we just broadcast out on YouTube, that you could look into Google helping subsidize any bandwidth costs if that ends up being a problem. Just making sure it's okay with you.
Yeah, it seemed like from what I was reading on here, and this is something to maybe take to the build group, the issue is more about like the stuff in downloads not being fronted by the CDN, which is something that independently we should be looking at. But yeah, this is something we could maybe find some different resources that Google could maybe pitch in to help with this.
Yeah, or the foundation at large. I mean, the OpenJS Foundation could help too.
Yeah, I mean, like,
okay, cool. I don't think we need to have this conversation right now. I just want to make sure you're okay with me saying that you said that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say it on a public stream otherwise, but I appreciate you checking. So with no one else adding anything there, we have the strategic initiatives is the next one. So let's walk through this. Just gotta get that file open. So for those of you who are watching on the stream, the Node.js Technical Steering Committee started keeping a strategic initiatives document a couple years ago now. And in it, we outline all the different things that we're working on that are like high priority. We used to do kind of like a stand-up that was about individuals' work. And now we have this stand-up that's more about like specific initiatives. So if you go to the TSC repo, there's a strategic initiatives markdown, and we're just gonna kind of walk through this and give an update. So the first one that we have is modules. That's me. Modules is coming together well. We are still aiming to hopefully unflag prior to the Node 12 LTS in October. There's like 3 or 4 big things that we need to figure out first. We don't yet have consensus 100% on if we want to keep some of the design decisions that we've made, specifically about not allowing dual entry points. That would allow like you to have a separate entry point for ESM than CommonJS. The other one is like the file extension resolution algorithm. We no longer automatically resolve file extensions. I saw personally, I have the bias of not wanting to see either of those features reintroduced, but we haven't reached full consensus in the group about that. Then there's 2 features that we're working through. One is called exports. I don't know if everyone in the TSC has seen this yet. I believe that it's landed in 12 as an experimental feature behind a flag that allows you to define the exports of a module. So what you can get through deep searching in a module and like it limits the exports to only the ones that are defined in the package JSON. The version that's upstream now in 12, as far as I know, now supports both CommonJS and ESM. And so there's work being done stabilizing that feature, as well as some of the like DX and behavior for it. The other one is loader hooks. So this is the ability to write custom hooks that change the way what happens when you import a module. This is extremely important for stubbing modules or for intercepting modules, which is work that APMs have to do. It's also how Yarn and Tink have been doing some of their more advanced kind of work with like automatic module installation. It's a feature that we want to have at the very least mostly sketched out. So we're hoping that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have a better idea of the rest of the roadmap. But we're still, as far as I know, on track for, at the very least, having no flag, maybe remaining experimental for a little bit when we go into LTS. James, that's what we did for HTTP2, if I recall, right?
Okay, sorry, I missed that last question.
For HTTP2, we removed the flag, but it was still experimental when it went into LTS, and then we upgraded it to stable during the LTS of 8, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and the reason was while it was under a flag, nobody was actually using it.
Yeah.
So
I think we may do a similar thing like that for ESM. But as I mentioned, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a more explicit strategy, and we'll bring that back to the TSC. Next strategic initiative is NAPI. Michael Dawson is not here. Does anybody else want to take this one on? Okay, we'll move on to the next initiative is workers. Anna's not on the call right now. Does anyone else have an update on workers? Core Promise APIs, that's Mateo, who's also not on the call. Does anyone else have any update on Core Promises? So the next one would be governance, and that's me. I think we had consensus to remove this initiative. Is that correct?
If I recall correctly, yeah.
+1 from me.
Yeah. I think we were waiting to get the updates to our charter based on the new foundation, but we've got that done now. So I'll go ahead and open a PR to change that. We've got the new Streams API. Jeremiah, do you have an update on that?
Yes, just at the moment, kind of awaiting feedback and also trying to find time to figure out scheduling for a meeting.
And I will apologize right now, Jeremiah, for not getting you that feedback yet. I'm hoping to get it to you by the end of the week.
Okay, cool. The next one we have is V8 currency. Do not see Targos here. Anyone have an update on what's going on with V8 right now? Okay, so we'll move to the next one. Open Web Standards, that's myself and Joyi. Joyi's not on the call, so I will take this. We have a standards initiative that's spun up under the OpenJS umbrella, and we've started having some meetings. I think part of the idea is running a pre-meeting before TC39 so we can review things and make sure we're all on the same page. I think there's also some work being done looking at like adopting some more of these standards in core. But this is still very high level. Does anyone have any questions or other things to add for that? Okay. Next one we have is Python 3 and JIT. And that's Soktherpeon, who's not on the call. Does anyone know about what's going on with Python 3 and JIT? Okay, hopefully we'll get an update.
I'm going to put a note in that we had agreed last time, I thought, that we were going to invite Christian Klaus to these meetings to sort of help the Python 3 thing. You know, he can tell us where things are at, what he's stuck on, what we can do to help move it forward. So I'll leave a note to that effect unless anybody objects.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So the next one that we have on here is quick HTTP3. James?
Yep, progressing along nicely. It's a really big, complicated protocol. The implementation is equally big and complicated. The biggest issues I've had have actually been getting it to work reasonably well within the existing Node APIs and kind of API expectations. But making progress on it. Still looking at the goal of opening the PR, probably realistically, it's probably going to be mid-September, opening the PR to get landed in the main repo as experimental. Now that's just the quick support. The HTTP3 support I haven't started yet. I'll probably be starting on that week after next.
Okay. Thank you, James. Startup performance, Joyi is not here. Does anyone else have anything to add for that? Okay. Build resources. Rich, do you have anything to add?
I do, but I'm still typing startup resources. No one present. Okay. Build. So I have been having intermittent conversations with Michael Dawson and Rod Vag, but not much to report this week other than our main pain point these days, as I see it, is Windows in CI. And Joao has started to address that somewhat in a pull request that I will leave in the minutes and also put in the chat here, that it would be great if we could make an effort to get that thing landed. It will help us debug failures in CI on Windows. The basic improvement is that when tests fail in a certain way in CI, instead of it causing a subsequent test to fail, it will show up as the test that's actually causing the failure, if that makes sense. It has to do with the way Windows deals with the temp directory in our tests. So please take a look. Please help get that across the finish line. It's being defensively marked as Semver Major. I'm not sure it really should be, to be honest. But regardless, please take a look. Thanks. That's all.
Thank you, Rich. A quick thing to bring up, Colin, you opened an issue about like the WASI libuv stuff, correct?
Yes, that's right. I had a call last night or yesterday, depending on time zone, with Guy and Gus, and we kind of decided that creating a new repo would probably be the best way to move forward and kind of iterate on the existing pull request.
Do you think that it would make sense to turn this into a strategic initiative, or do you think that it's a little premature?
I think it's premature. Let's get the repo there and see how things start moving before we do all that.
Okay. I'll just state that I'm very selfishly interested in hearing about the progress on this. So I'll just reach out to you one-to-one.
Okay. Now I'll leave the WASI stuff off of the minutes unless you think I should include that little aside there, that little sidebar. Yeah. Moving along.
So the next thing on the agenda is a tracking issue for an update on CPC and board meetings. I can handle that today. So biggest things with the CPC this week were the landing of the official process for new projects applying to the foundation. That's one of the bigger ones. That's available in the main repo. There's an email address and a template to fill out that goes through a small internal private discussion with the CPC voting and non-voting members. Just it's like a silent period to make sure there's no like really, really large objections. If there's no large objections, then projects go into an incubating period. And during that incubating period, all the kind of like due diligence is done to onboard them into the foundation. If anyone has questions about that, please feel free to reach out. I helped draft a bunch of that with Jory Burson, so I'm pretty familiar with how the process works. If you have projects that you think would make sense in the foundation, you know, it's a good time to maybe try to get them in. The other one that's going on that is worth people's attention, although I think there's some issues that have been opened, is the travel fund. And so there's been the discussion about moving the management of the larger travel fund to the Cross Project Council. This would be specifically the fund that's that is for the Collaborator Summit, since the Collaborator Summit is expanding beyond just Node, similar to what we did in Berlin. This does not mean that the Node.js project itself cannot have it and maintain its own separate travel fund. But I think that the intention was that if we wanted to maintain a travel fund, it would be a smaller fund for non-foundation related activities. So, you know, like similar to like when we sent people to TC39 or when we've sent people, I think like we have one request right now to send someone to a very specific Node event. So we still have the ability to have and maintain our own budget. But, you know, we would no longer be responsible for maintaining the broader travel fund. Now, with that being said, since all of us can be attend the Cross Project Council, anyone who has been participating in the travel fund and wants to continue to do so can do it in the exact same way. The There's a process that it's going through. The new travel fund is still only at stage 1 in the process, hopefully moving to stage 2 tomorrow. Oh no, it's moving to stage 1 tomorrow. So there's still a lot of room to augment how it would work before it lands. So if people have any thoughts about that, there's a pull request open that you can chime in on. Does anyone have any questions about that before I move on? Okay. One thing that I think is worth letting everyone know about, just in case you're not aware, there is lists.openjsf.org, and that's a handful of different mailing lists for the foundation itself, including a mailing list for the projects. There's an announcement mailing list. On the projects mailing list, there is a weekly summary of the CPC meetings that Jory has been sending out. So if you're interested in kind of like keeping up to date with what's going on and, you know, getting the messages as they're going out, that's where you can find the mailing lists and sign up. Regarding the board, the next meeting is coming up on the 23rd. As far as I know, I don't think that there's any node-specific business at this upcoming board meeting. But if anyone has things that they'd like brought to the board, you know, it's between now, like in the next week or so, would be a good time to raise it. Since Michael's out of office right now, please feel free to ping me about that. In case you're not aware, I'm still on the board, but I'm now Google's rep on the board rather than representing Node or the OpenJS Foundation. But, you know, I'm still very much wearing my Node hat, well, cycling between hats while I'm there, but I'm still very much, you know, thinking about the interests of the Node project during the discussion. So as always, please feel free to come to me if you have any thoughts, concerns, or questions. And with that, I think that's the whole agenda. Does anyone have anything else to bring up?
Nope.
Oh, I hope my typing wasn't too loud. I just realized my microphone's unmuted.
It was calming to me. I'm looking at the YouTube right now. I see a single question mark from Sad Wizard. 42. So I think that that's about it. We can end the meeting unless anyone else has anything else to add. Okay, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream.